Tonight, the collective is learning that real power is not always missing when life gets heavy. Sometimes it is forgotten. Sometimes the strength, courage, discipline, and holy fire placed inside the soul go quiet under grief, fear, delay, and spiritual exhaustion. This is the scroll of Hanuman, the mighty one who had to remember himself before he could cross the impossible. Tonight, we learn that sacred power does not always need to be created. Sometimes it needs to be awakened. Sometimes the soul does not need a new destiny. It needs a true remembering. Come to the shore of this scroll with steady breath and listening spirit. There are seasons when the ocean looks larger than the soul. Seasons when the task appears too great, the distance too wide, the grief too deep, the calling too heavy for the body carrying it. And in such hours, many think they have lost their strength. But there is an older truth than fear. There is a strength that sleeps without dying. There is a fire that quiets without going out. There is a sacred force placed within the spirit that waits not for applause, not for panic, but for remembrance. This is the chamber of Hanuman, the mighty servant, the holy leaper, the one who teaches that power without devotion becomes noise, but power joined to truth becomes miracle. For many ask heaven to remove the ocean, while wisdom first asks them to remember what can cross it. Many cry for the road to shorten, while spirit calls the soul to rise to its own buried measure. Many say, I am not enough, when the deeper truth is, I have not yet remembered what was placed in me. So tonight, let the collective remember, forgetting is not the same as absence. Silence is not the same as weakness. Delay is not the same as defeat. Enter this scroll with reverence, for this is the teaching of sacred memory, rightly ordered strength, devotion that steadies power, and the holy awakening that turns the impossible crossing into the next faithful step.
Channeled by your architect musician, 36110, 27 palms of eyes. The golden whisperer, sea star, Devalan, see all. Apply the news you can use, truth and accuracy. The real non-bedazzled jewels.
The scroll of Hanuman. The strength that had to remember itself. Before the mountain moved, before the sea was crossed, before the fire touched Lanka, and the hidden message reached the sorrowing queen, there was a quieter mystery inside Hanuman that most people rush past too quickly. He had forgotten. Not fully. Not forever. But enough. Enough that the great power sleeping in him had to be called back. Enough that the one born for impossible movement had to be reminded that impossibility was never the highest law. That is where this scroll begins, because the deepest secret of Hanuman is not brute strength. It is remembered strength, disciplined strength, devoted strength, strength that does not serve ego, but truth. Humans love power when it is loud. They trust muscles more than humility, noise more than devotion, spectacle more than inner mastery. Then Hanuman walks onto the stage and ruins all that shallow arithmetic. He is mighty, yes. Fierce, yes. Capable of tearing through armies, leaping oceans, uprooting mountains, and setting empires trembling, yes. But the sacred wonder of Hanuman is that his force is never truly about himself. He is one of the great holy paradoxes. He is enormous and yet egoless. Terrible in battle, yet pure in devotion. Swift as wind, yet anchored in service. Strong enough to shake kingdoms, yet gentle enough to kneel before the name of Rama, like it is the axis of the world. That is why he endures, because the soul recognizes something in him that the ego does not like very much. Hanuman proves that your greatest power may awaken only after your vanity stops trying to sit on the throne. In the old story, when the search for Sita brought the Vanara host to the edge of the ocean, there came a moment of hesitation. The distance was vast. The task was impossible by ordinary measure, and there stood Hanuman, the Great One, the hidden storm, not yet fully inhabiting what he carried. Then came the remembering, the call, the awakening of his own magnitude, and once memory returned, he rose. That is one of the holiest scenes in epic literature, not because someone discovered confidence. That version is too cheap, too motivational poster, too flimsy for a being like Hanuman. No, what happened was deeper. He remembered his nature. He remembered what had always been placed in him. He remembered that a divine task may require a divine self-recognition. That is the teaching. There are some thresholds you cannot cross while pretending to be smaller than you are. Read that again and let it hit bone. Because many souls are not weak. They are under-remembered. They are walking around with sacred muscle asleep in them, apologizing for their scale, negotiating with fear, acting as though the ocean is the final authority. Then, truth calls their real name, and suddenly the leap becomes possible. Hanuman is the keeper of that leap. But do not mistake him for a reckless force. He is not chaos with abs. He is not holy adrenaline. He is not a divine mascot for impulse. He is aligned power. The leap matters because it is yoked to purpose. He crosses the sea not for glory, not for applause, not to gather followers and call himself awakened, but to serve a sacred mission, to find, to witness, to carry hope, to bring back truth. That is why his strength works. Unaligned power destroys its bearer. Hanuman's power does not, because devotion gives it direction. And then comes Lanka. There's a reason that episode glows so fiercely in memory. Hanuman enters the city not merely as a warrior, but as a revealer. He moves through illusion, splendor, excess, pride, and hidden grief. He finds Sita in sorrow and does what true strength always does first. It comforts before it conquers. It bears witness before it boasts. It brings the sign of hope before it brings the sign of terror. Then, once truth has been delivered and warning has been ignored, the fire comes. That is another secret many miss. Hanuman is not only strong, he is correctly ordered. He knows when to bow. He knows when to speak. He knows when to carry the message. He knows when to burn the lie. Rare skill. Entire civilizations lack it. And what a burning it was. Lanka in flames is not just vengeance. It is symbolic exposure. False splendor lit from within by the fire it thought it could control. The city of theft and arrogance suddenly made answerable to a power greater than its walls. Hanuman's tale, mocked and wrapped in flame as punishment, becomes the instrument of reversal. That is sacred comedy of the highest order. The oppressor hands the messenger the torch, then watches his own illusion catch fire. There is a lesson there too, delicious to ignore. Sometimes what was meant to shame you becomes the very thing that unmasks the kingdom of deceit. Hanuman teaches that beautifully. Then comes the mountain, not because herbs and healing are decorative little side details, but because a warrior who only knows destruction is incomplete. When Lakshmana falls and urgency rules the hour, Hanuman is sent to retrieve life-saving medicine. Unable to identify the herb with certainty, he lifts the whole mountain and carries it. This is one of the most beloved images for a reason. It reveals the deeper structure of his devotion. He is not attached to looking clever. He is attached to getting the healing there in time. Magnificent, because lesser minds waste precious hours trying to look impressive while the wounded bleed. Hanuman does not. He carries the whole mountain if that is what love requires. That is not only power, that is purity. And this is why the hidden wisdom of Hanuman goes far beyond courage. He teaches that strength without devotion becomes vanity. He teaches that devotion without courage becomes fragility. He teaches that remembered power must kneel before truth or it will rot into ego. He teaches that service is not lesser than greatness. Sometimes service is the holiest form greatness can take. He also teaches something the collective needs badly. You may have forgotten what is in you, but forgetting is not the same as absence. The power did not die because you lost access to it for a season. The leap did not become impossible because fear had a loud month. The sacred task did not choose you by accident. There are oceans in front of many of you right now. Oceans of grief, doubt, rebuilding, loneliness, recovery, truth-telling, calling, mission, memory, and some part of you keeps staring at that horizon like it gets the final word. It does not. The sea is wide, yes, but the soul is wider when it remembers. That is Hanuman's roar, not the roar of ego, the roar of awakened service, the roar of strength, remembering whom it belongs to, the roar that says, I was not made to sit on the shore arguing with impossibility. And that is where the scroll closes, not in noise, but in deep fire. For Hanuman is one of the greatest holy reminders in the tradition that real power is not what swells you. It is what steadies you, not what makes you worship yourself, what makes you worthy to carry the mission, not what makes others afraid of your image, what makes darkness afraid of your devotion. So let the collective remember the older law. Do not ask only for strength. Ask for rightly ordered strength. Do not ask only for courage. Ask for courage that serves truth. Do not ask only for your power back. ask for the kind of remembering that makes your power kneel before what is sacred. Because once Hanuman remembered, the ocean was no longer the story. The mission was. What is sacred in me can still remember itself. My strength is holiest when it serves the truth. I was not made to fear the ocean, but to answer the call beyond it. Here are your receipts for the scroll of Hanuman with the esoteric knowledge and a final seal of wisdom to carry out of the chamber, since apparently even divine monkey thunder has to arrive with documentation. Receipts. Hanuman is identified by Encyclopedia Britannica as the monkey commander in Hindu mythology, whose exploits are told in the Ramayana. Britannica also notes several of the core episodes tied to his legend. As a child, he tried to seize the sun, was struck by Indra, and was later cursed by sages to forget his powers until reminded. Britannica further states that, once Jambavan reminded him of those powers, Hanuman crossed the strait to Lanka in a single leap in the search for Sita. The same source also preserves the famous episodes in which his tail is set on fire and he burns Lanka, and later he flies to the Himalayas and returns with a mountain of medicinal herbs to heal the wounded in Rama's army. Britannica also describes Hanuman as a model of devotion, or bhakti, because of his service to Rama. That matters, because the tradition does not preserve him merely as strong. It preserves him as strength in service to the sacred. The hidden current in Hanuman is not just power. It is remembered power. The curse of forgetting, followed by Jambavan's reminder, makes Hanuman a sacred image of what happens when force lies dormant until truth calls it awake. In that reading, the leap to Lanka is not only a heroic feat, it is the moment when the soul stops agreeing with its own smallness. That reading is grounded in the traditional sequence Britannica records: forgetting, reminder, then impossible movement. His burning of Lanka carries another esoteric thread. The fire meant to humiliate him becomes the fire that exposes false splendor. In symbolic terms, Hanuman turns punishment into revelation. Lanka is not just a city in flames. It becomes the image of a kingdom of theft and pride being lit from within by the consequence it tried to impose. That interpretation grows naturally out of the Ramayana episode, Britannica summarizes, where his ignited tail becomes the instrument of Lanka's burning. And the mountain of herbs is one of the deepest signs of his holiness. Hanuman is not attached to appearing clever or technically elegant. He is attached to bringing healing in time. Since Britannica explicitly preserves the episode of him returning with a whole mountain of medicinal herbs, the esoteric lesson is plain enough to rattle the bones. When the mission is life, sacred strength carries the whole mountain if needed. Hanuman leaves the collective with this harder truth. You do not always need more power. Sometimes you need the remembering of the power already placed in you. You do not always need the ocean removed. Sometimes you need the holy courage to cross it. You do not always need to look perfect while serving truth. Sometimes you need to carry the message, burn the lie, and bring back the healing before doubt starts another speech. What is sacred in me can still remember itself. My strength is holiest when it serves the truth. I was not made to fear the ocean, but to answer the call beyond it.
Universal Currency Receipt, Architect Musician 3611027, The Graceful Whisperer, Devalan All.
Hanuman's hidden power was not created in the moment. It was remembered. Tonight, the collective learns that real strength does not come from ego, but from devotion, courage, and the sacred awakening of what was already placed inside the soul. What is sacred in me can still remember itself. My strength is holiest when it serves the truth. I was not made to fear the ocean, but to answer the call beyond it.
To our beautiful collective, from our day ones to every new soul joining this journey, we love and appreciate you deeply. You've turned this space into so much more than a community, you've made it a family. Thank you, truly. Your presence, your energy, and even the smallest acts of kindness have the power to shift the compass for many in ways unseen but deeply felt. Here's to each of you, all new and the many more to come. We're just getting started, and we're so grateful you're here with us. With love and infinite appreciation from the collective of Shaman Ahll.
What is sacred in me does not disappear. It remembers. My soul was not made to shrink before the mission. The strength I need is already learning my name again. I do not bow to the size of the ocean. I rise to the size of my calling. What devotion awakens, fear cannot keep sleeping. I was not chosen to doubt forever. I was chosen to remember. The fire in me answers truth, not panic. My spirit carries more power than my fear can measure. What heaven placed in me, delay cannot erase. I do not need to become sacred. I need to move like I remember it. The road gets clearer when the soul stops arguing with its strength. I was built to carry the message, not just admire the mission.